guys, so we're getting pretty close to having the old donk ready for service, but there are a few final things we need to do to have this ready for our conversion. So, Mark IV drive adapters actually supply the high mount alternator and air conditioner. That's the word I was looking for. The high mount AC and alternator kit come from Mark's adapters, so these actually mount up on top. Move your alternator up to here and your AC compressor up to here to sort of just help with how it works in the patrols and how it all fits. So one thing is that they sit flush against the head and come up over the top. The other thing is they reckon that you are supposed to, these covers are meant to switch left and right so that the filler becomes at the back over this side. And not only that, you then need to trim off the front of the covers so that the high mount kits don't actually fail on the covers because they mount directly to the head. So that's the first thing. So first thing we're going to do is mark these up where they've got to be trimmed up. So instead of this being there where it normally would be, it's going to be over this side. It really does have to be at the back, because if it's at the front it's going to interfere with our high mount setup. Alright, so I've marked them up where there's just a little bit of lip that hangs over the head. So I'll get the die grinder and we'll just give them a polish, make sure they sit flush. Now I also believe, I think it's this tag, but I'll check the method of procedure, but I believe it's this tag as well. We have to lop that off and smooth that out as well, because it also interferes and we have to move this coil pack. So, a few little things to do. Alright, couple of modified covers. Should do the trick. Look at that, perfect. So, chuck gaskets in these and actually install them. Alright, look at that. Getting close, getting close. So for the next part we actually have to do a little bit of grinding and trimming of the water pump and the tensioner. So for that I'm going to go outside, so I wanted to get the intake on first so that the intake ports are all sealed up so I can shove something in the throttle body and I can go outside and do what I've got to do. But apart from that, most all buttoned up. So we'll go outside, we'll do a bit of this, get some of this stuff onto here, and then get our ancillaries on. Still got to do the balancer bolt, which we have a brand new one here for it. Huzzah! Look at that, brand spanking. So it's pretty good. Marks actually give you a template to use. So you take off the tensioner, the template goes on there, and it gives you sort of where you need to grind down that boss there, so that the high mount setup clears that part of where it needs to be. So it should be fairly simple to just hit that with the die grinder and get it done. Alright, big old praying mantis. So we've pretty much got everything back on here. So they supply these spaces so that you can refit the stock alternator bracket, because you still use this idler pulley. That's the location for the power steering pump. Got our compressor up here, new compressor on our high mount setup. It's another idler. Let's see how that all mounts up, which is pretty cool. And it relocates the power steering reservoir to up the back there. Once that's on there. So we've got down in here, you can see why I had to notch those. It's for that. I don't know if you can see, it's hard to see in camera when everything's on there, but that's why they were notched, and that's how they are now. So tensioner's out here. It's a bit annoying because it means if you ever have a tensioner issue, you have to regrind it. So just got to make sure that the customer has those templates with him all the time. But yeah, alternator up here. So big old high mount setup, look at that. So you can see why we can't have the filler on this side, and then you can see on this side where I had to get rid of that tab. That's gone, and you can see the way they sit. That's why I had to trim them up as well to make sure they didn't fail. So, and then
we're gonna have a problem here.
What was that?
It's an underdrive balancer.
Yeah. So wrong size belt.
Yes.
Yep. Thought that might be an issue, but you can see, so this is the coil pack that we have to relocate as well. So that's the next thing, we'll get the coils on. Got to relocate that coil. It comes with a bracket, the kit does, to relocate one coil to the top. All went together pretty well. So yeah, fair bit of grinding on those two things, but it's pretty simple. Chuck the templates on them and go ham, go for gold. Easy enough, just hard on the gear. But yeah, no, it's all right. All right, so this is what the coil setup looks like. Not the prettiest, but it's functional. So we've lopped that, which so it doesn't protrude down there. And then we've got this bracket, which allows you to mount this coil like that and that coil like that. So moves it all back like so. So that's pretty much it. That's the motor ready. And like I said, the relocation for the power steering comes about here, but I'm not going to bother putting that on because it's big and it's going to get in the way and get caught on stuff while we're trying to get the motor in the car. Things like that. So
pipes on.
yeah, stick the pipes on and stuff like that, so that can go on in the car. It's not a big deal. Honestly, probably those coil packs will come back off now until it's in the car, just because it gets out of the way. But anyway, that's the engine ready to go. We are ready to rumble, so excited to hear this thing make some noise. Time to now get the gearbox and some other stuff ready, start getting it ready to get this thing to go in there. So hope you've enjoyed this. If you're looking for any LS parts, anything that I used throughout the build, you can find them all on our website. I'll leave a link in the description. Smash like, please do that. Please, smash like, please. Guys, welcome back to the GQ Patrol build. Now, where we left off last episode, we were just talking about how we don't have a solution from Mark's four-wheel drive adapters about making this four-wheel drive selector setup work. So currently, we're working on actually pretty much developing or engineering a solution to get this to actually work out how we want to. We've got Rex currently on this because I got other stuff to do today, but he's taken all his measurements off the old block, off the old setup, off the old box, to try and actually make a plate and linkage that's going to work for this four-wheel drive selector. So that's what he's currently doing. It's going to be a very long road. It's tedious work, but it is what we enjoy to do. This is what gets us ticking. This is why we enjoy engineering and things like this. This is what we like to do. So this is just the start, the development process. So this plate's going to be, I suppose, somewhat the easy part. This, the gate, I suppose you'd call it, the gate for the linkage setup. The hard part is going to be the actual pivot, and the receiver is going to be the hardest part of making this bracket. But there's a lot of angles, there's a lot of depth and levels to making this bracket work. But anyway, I'm interested to know if anyone else has actually done this conversion and has actually come with a solution for this. So if you've done this conversion, or you know someone who has done the 6L80 into the GQ and got it all working, I'd be keen to hear from you just to see what was going on. Because we did call Mark's four-wheel drive adapters and they didn't really have any solutions or even any ideas for solutions for us. So that's why we're sort of just going with it, working with it ourselves. But anyway, we'll check back in once Rex has figured a few things out and got it happening a bit more, and we'll keep you updated. In the meantime though, we've actually gone and degreased the entire engine bay of the Patrol, even all underneath it. It was absolutely coated in crap, like coated. I don't think I filmed any of the last episode, but yeah, Rex went through, degreased it a bunch of times, all underbody, all through the engine bay. It's looking pretty good. We've still got a lot of stuff to pull out of here, but this it probably doesn't translate much in this footage because of the way I've started to release content now, but it's currently the 15th of March, and this Patrol, we've got the white Crustita, as well as the VS Barra swap are all meant to be finished by the end of this month. So it's just over 2 weeks to finish 3 cars. This is how this one currently looks. And the white Crustita currently also doesn't have a motor and box in it either. And the Barra VS currently has a motor and box in it, but still needs wiring and fab work and everything else. So we're gonna be very busy for a little while. But anyway, it's looking great. You can actually see the diff. I swear it's probably cleaner than it's ever been. We didn't even know that these springs were yellow, but there they are. Yellow springs, and funnily enough, because it's been covered in so much like oil and grime and stuff like that, it's actually preserved everything really well. It's actually really, really clean under here, like really clean. So Rex has gone and cut the actual outboard shaft on the 6L80. So you actually have to cut this down to suit the adapter shaft for the transfer case. The instructions for this all come with the kit and they're quite clear. So it makes it pretty easy, which is good. So Rex has gone and cut that down. He's pretty much finished our little linkage mount for the selector. It's currently in the car because we test fitted it to the cross member and just put it in there to make sure it was sort of facing the right way and exactly where it needed to be. It's looking okay at the moment, but we'll just have to double check it again once we actually get the box and the motor in the car, make sure it's in the right position inside through the selector hole. So we're getting there, we're working on it. Rex is getting there. I'm doing other stuff, but we're getting there. So we've gone and fitted the 6L80 to our dummy block, and we've chucked on our new Mark's Adapters engine mounts. So we'll go ahead and chuck this in the car, and we use the dummy block to actually do all our fabrication, get our engine mounts and stuff all where they need to be. First thing first though, we've got to cut the old ones out of the car. So that's going to be first job for now. Got the grinder in here ready to go. Going to cut the old engine mount posts out of the chassis, get them out of the way. And we can go ahead and fit our dummy block and the box, get the new ones welded in, and then we will be on our way. Oh, we've got some illegal stuff happening over here.
Yeah, you can't film that.
Can't film this illegal 9-inch grinder. No, we can, because it's our house. It's at home. We're allowed to use it at home.
It's legal here because these boys have been trained.
Yeah, we've been trained by professionals. VOC'd on the 9-inch. No, it's after 5 o'clock anyway, so we're actually off the clock.
Yeah, the rules don't matter anymore.
So the rules stop now. For legal purposes, this is only a joke for the camera for right now, and we're not actually about to use it to cut these off. Alright guys, so it's currently 9 PM. We've got our dummy block in here with our gearbox attached. The dummy block's in here, but it seems to be sitting at a horrendous angle. As you can see, it's leaning back real far. It's creating an issue with this, with our four-wheel drive selector. We're worried about the angle left and right of the selector shaft, or the stick, selector stick I should say. Turns out the way the engine's sitting, the way the mounts are here, it's actually, you can't go all the way back to select 4 low, because it's leaning too far back. So that's a whole nother issue we weren't even thinking about. So you can see these mounts are designed, they've got little feet that hang over the chassis rail, so that they're designed to pretty much sit on and then you weld them up. So we're just talking at the moment at the possibility of actually just spacing the actual gearbox cross member where it mounts to the adapter for the transfer up to try and level it all out just a little bit. The biggest issue we have at the moment is the 6L80 shifter obviously has a big old shifter arm which comes down, and the closer we start pushing everything up towards the trans tunnel, the top of the trans tunnel, the less room we are allowing ourselves for our shifter arm for our 6L80 shifter, which is already a problem for space because of the way the four-wheel drive selector shaft works, if you watch the previous episodes. So fingers crossed that the exhaust system that we've got with the pipes hopefully just bolt straight in and clear everything. But hey, this is the fun of doing engine conversions. It wouldn't be fun if it were all just bolted in, would it? All right guys, so next morning, and we decided to actually get the actual engine into this thing, because, you know, measuring up the sump, it was looking pretty close. We just wanted to get the actual engine in there so that we could have a better look at what it's actually going to look like rather than trying to visualize it off just a block, because it just looked ridiculous. But
Sway bar release.
well, oh,
TI.
that's right, TI, remote sway bar disconnect.
That's the sway bar release, that's what it is.
Gotcha. Anyway, yeah, with the actual LS in here that's going in the car, it does look a little bit more reasonable. It seems that this is actually just the way they're meant to be. It was just us being pedantic and trying to visualize things off just a block and stuff like that. It did look a bit ridiculous last night, but I guess Mark's 4 drives, who have done this conversion probably a million times, actually know what they're doing. Who'd have thought? So anyway, at this stage we're just gonna...
It is like, it's a GU kit, so you've got
yeah, we've got to be on the lookout for stuff we've got to modify, because it is not built around this particular car. We might still space the gearbox up just a little bit, just because we do have the room, and it will help a great deal with the pinion angle, because the way it's leaning on this lean all the way down to the transfer case, the pinion angle is a bit cooked. And then pretty much the only thing we'll have to really sort out, which I keep talking about, is the shifter, which we're going to have to do a bit of modification, turn the arm around, convert it to cable, make linkages. It's going to be a bit of screwing around, but should all work. So but anyway, it's good to see the motor in there. It's nice little progress. It's been a pretty good couple of days on this thing. I'm pretty sure the owner's meant to be coming out today as well, so he's going to be stoked to be able to look at this thing with the motor in it. So he's bringing out his new radiator that he's had. Well, he got the old radiator completely recored and rebuilt, which is awesome. So stayed away from those cheap alloy Chinese sort of radiators for this thing, because we do want it to be nice and reliable. So yeah, we've got a new fresh core in the patrol radiator, and he also bought a new air condenser, because when we built the Cruiser, we had an issue with the air condenser just being old, and it just restricted so much airflow through the radiator that it ran really, really hot. And as soon as we got a new condenser in there, it just, yeah, it was a million times better. So while we're at it, while we're doing a whole new rebuild, a whole new birthday for this car, try and do a bit of a refresh on the AC system as well. You know, we'll have, it's going to be... Righto guys, so we've got some new engine mounts. So Rex has gone and welded them all up and painted them up. We did have to move this mount for the brake line. That had to get moved back because it was in the way of the mount. But apart from that, they're all sweet. So we've currently got the motor and box back out of the car, where Rex is just doing a revision to the linkage for the four-wheel drive selector to try and get it to work properly. Seeing as we decided to mount the motor and gearbox the way it was, we've got to actually get the selector so that it can select full low properly. So it requires a little bit of a revision to our design, but nothing that Rex can't handle. Getting it sorted, it's a bit of a pain. But anyway, we knew it was going to be just a fiddly thing to get right, but it is what it is. There's our painted up mounting system for the linkage, which we'll show you in a minute on the actual box. So at the moment, Rex is just going through actually putting the new seal in for the adapter. So actually doing our final install of the adapter to the box now for the transfer case. So this is a little spline adapter. This is why you actually have to cut the rear of the output shaft on the box down so that fits over it like so. And adapts it to our input shaft on the transfer.
It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst piece of shit I've ever made. It works.
Alright, so we've got full low.
See, there's no stress on that, so it's
so it's
selected properly.
full high.
Same with full high and too low.
Beautiful.
Just gonna have to do it.
So that's what it looks like without anything on it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna do. Something like that.
So you can see now from what we've made, what I was talking about, how it's quite intricate. It'd be pretty hard to, you know, draw something up and mass produce it in a way that's going to be cost effective. It'd have to be something you'd bend up and then weld up, and it just massively labor intensive. Plus,
well, I did actually have a look at it. You could, seeing as it's this one that's the important one, you could have just that piece and then out of a solid piece, because that's the hard part to get right.
yep,
And then you just make brackets to mount it,
yeah,
you know, wherever. But those three are the important ones that were really hard to get right. The rest of it's whatever, really.
well, we'll keep the dimensions aside for in case we ever feel like doing that. But the other thing is, I don't know how big the market is for, you know, LS 6L80 conversions into GQs. Evidently, from what we've found so far, doing this conversion, it seems that there's not a huge market. Doesn't seem like a lot of people have done the 6L80 into the GQ. Plenty of them in GUs. Doesn't seem like much in GQs. So, don't even know how big of a market there would be for it. So anyway. All right, guys. So we've got one last dummy up with the motor and box. We've got it in for one more dummy fit. So now that we've got the mounts welded in and that's all sorted, and the actual transfer adapter and everything's actually bolted final to the gearbox, we thought we'd dummy it all back in one more time, and this time we're going to dummy up all of the pipes, anything to do with the ancillaries, fuel lines, anything like that, to double check whether we have to make any modifications to the firewall or the floor pan or anything for the pipes or anything like that. Anything that we know we need to do while the motor's back out of the car. So one last dummy fit to fit everything, and then pull it back out, do our modifications to fit pipes and everything else, and then it can finally go back in for the last time. So we've got the passenger side pipes in. Bit of a pain to get in, but they actually fit quite well. We do have an issue with them. They are contacting a little tab that's on the bell housing of the 6L80 though. So they're contacting a tab that's on the gearbox bell housing, but it's not actually used for anything. So we're considering at the moment just cutting the tab off the bell housing. That's that side. But now it's going to be the hard side, which is the driver's side. So we're definitely going to have to move these fuel lines. There's a diff breather line on this side, which we had to move as well. This one here. But we already knew we had to do that because they actually tell you in the method of procedure that you have to move that one. So that's all good. Driver side, we found a bit of an issue. So this GQ, being a TI model, has the factory sway bar disconnect. Pretty common for TI patrols. This thing here, and it is just hella in the way of our pipes. It's just not going to work. So we need to come up with a solution to something we can do with this factory sway bar disconnect. Fuel lines are going to move, but we were sort of counting that they were going to have to move anyway, and it's easy enough to move them, reroute things, make it work. The sway bar disconnect may not be so simple though, so bit of TI interior action. So we had hoped at the start of this build that we could actually build a bit of a drop box for the shifter and sit it down far enough that it would sit in the same location as a stock one, and hopefully then mostly get the surround back in and have it look as factory as possible. But given where it's sitting at the moment, like the gearbox is not far away from the tunnel at all, I don't think we'll be able to drop it down very much at all, because off the bottom of the shifter it's actually quite bulky where the arm is. So I think we're gonna have to the shifter's gonna have to obviously be set where it still functions. So I think it's gonna be a little bit high. But I've had a look at a few photos on the patrol page of a few other people that have done similar installs, and I've got a pretty good idea of the a way that we can make it look quite neat, even if we have to set it up a little bit. You know, it's not ideal. It would be nice to get it down in its stock location, but unfortunately, we're not really that spoilt for choice. It's got to go where it's functional, and we can't change the shifter because then you lose your tap down function, which is something we really want to keep. So. Like you can see, it's quite a bulky unit, the old shifter.
It's going to be a wild looking.
So, we'll still need to do a fair bit of trimming to the actual trans tunnel to get the shifter to fit, but something that's really convenient about these things is the actual plate where the shifter and the forward drive selector sit here. It seems as if it's completely removable. There's 8 bolts around the outside, and you can actually remove the plate, and it just leaves a big hole here. So we can actually take this plate out to actually modify it to fit, which is really, really cool. That makes life, you know, a lot easier than trying to modify stuff inside the car here. So we've turned the actual shifter arm on the shifter around, so it's on the opposite side. So now the actual arm comes down on the driver's side of the shifter instead of the passenger side, which gives us clearance away from the forward drive selector shaft. And also where the shifter actually is situated in the tunnel gives us more clearance from the actual box as well. So this allows us to actually sit the shifter down as far as we need to have it looking as good as we can. So from here, the course of action is...
That'll actually look pretty good right there.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
That's all the way forward, and you clearanced everything under there. And then by the time you get back down to drive, that will actually work really well.
From here, the course of action is to do away with the stock rod that used to go from the bottom of the shifter to the linkage on the box in the VE, and we're going to have to convert to a cable. So it's not that hard. We're just about to make a few brackets as, you know, cable mounts and buy a cable, but it should still work fine, and that gets us out of trouble as far as clashing with the GQ's forward drive selector. So much nicer than having the shifter mounted way up. And
yeah, this is definitely going to be a better solution.
Yeah, for sure.
And cheaper than, because you can buy
aftermarket shifters.
Yeah, shifters for the 6L that convert it to cable stuff, yeah. But I won't even tell you how much.
Like 400 US.
Yeah, like 500 US, and then you got to get it here, and this is a better solution.
If we needed to, we could shorten the arm up to run the cable. We just have to shorten the linkage on the box end the same percentage.
Yeah.
So if we shorten that arm half and then converted it to cable, so we didn't have so much arm sticking out the bottom, we just have to make sure when we do the linkage on the other end, we convert that to half the size as well.
That presents problems though with your tolerance.
Yeah.
If you make that arm shorter and you've got the same amount of slop, it starts to. Yeah. It's not good. This is a better way, I think.
Yeah. We'll just leave. We'll try for starters leaving the arm as long as it is from factory. and just try and make a bracket to suit a cable to get it to work. So that's the go for now. But no, that should look good. I'm excited.
They're two.
They're different.
You got a big and a small one, so that it's only supposed to go in that way.
Yeah,
we can make it fit.
So Rex is just showing us there. The arm is designed to go into the shifter housing one way, but obviously with a bit of modification it does work to just turn it around and face it the other side. So we just do a bit of modification to the plastic just so it sits in there properly, and we should be right. So we've got a new radiator, condensers underneath. It's not actually a new radiator, you actually had the stock one, the original one, record. I think I went through that. I think I went through it, but I just didn't show you that he actually did drop that off. So that's in now as well. So once the motor comes back out of this dummy fit, I'll fit the new condenser in there while it's out, because that's going to be probably a bit easier. We're just having a look at the factory sway bar disconnect. There is a join like halfway down the car in the cable. So it's not one cable all the way through to the rear sway bar. So we're hoping that there's enough length on the cable that we can split it at that join, and then hopefully just run the cable. We'll reshape this tube, this hard tube, reshape it, try and curve it around a bit more, and try and run this cable around this side of the steering shaft, and just sort of mount it over this corner with some P-clamps just to get it out of the way. And we're going to reshape the fuel lines to run them straight up the firewall so that they're up around these heater lines around there somewhere, and hopefully that'll give us the room we need for our pipe down this side, for our pipes in there. Marks 4 Drive actually supply you with a return style fuel regulator, because obviously the factory GM setups are a deadhead, a filter reg in the fuel tank, so that there's no actual return line for the fuel. So Marks 4 Drive actually supply with their kit a return style regulator, which we're going to mount pretty much up around there. It's a pretty good kit. I'll show you when we go to install it, but it comes with adapters for quick connects and all that sort of thing, and just one quick connect line. It's really tidy, really easy to do. Pretty much most of the stuff so far that Marks has supplied has been really nice and easy to work with. If it wasn't for this whole issue with fitting a 6L into a GQ and not having the 4-wheel drive selector mounts on the transfer case for the conversion for the GQ, this conversion would be very, very simple. So the other thing that we are doing while we're going this far with it, the owner dropped us off a new pinion seal, replaced the pinion seal because it's leaking. Rear diff's going to get a bit of a birthday, bit of a good service as well. All looking pretty good. We've got new filters for the 6L there. We've got new oil for the transfer. Everything's going to get a big service. Whole thing's going to be big old birthday. Marks actually also supply you with a new high pressure power steering line, which goes from the pump all the way down across to the steering box. They also supply you with a new bracket, which I haven't installed yet, to rearward face this receiver for the reservoir, and it points it sort of back towards the firewall a bit, and then as you saw when we put the accessories on the engine, the reservoir actually mounts back up here now, and just feeds the pump, and then there's a new high pressure line. So like, yeah, it's pretty simple with all this Marks gear. It's pretty good. So we encountered a little bit of a problem with our plan to turn that arm around, and that is that this cover that goes on the bottom of the shifter, which does really need to go on because it keeps all the dust and stuff out of the actual mechanism in the shifter. Without it, particularly in a 4-wheel drive, probably not a good idea. You're going to end up dust and crap all in the actual mechanism of the shifter. It's going to cause issues. Not very nice. So this is actually shaped. You can see that we've got a flat part on the top and the bottom is fully curved. So it's shaped a certain way so that you can't actually just turn it around and put it on the other way. It doesn't work. So that was a pretty big issue because we do want to have that on there for sure. So that sort of stopped us in our tracks with that plan. Unfortunately, that's not going to work as much as it would have if that wasn't a problem, but it is. So what we're going to do now is what we talked about, shortening that arm halfway and converting it to cable, but it's still going to stay on the same side. So we're going to leave it on the same side as the 4-wheel drive selector. We're going to shorten it half just because it's an easy number to use and it will be enough to clear everything. That way on the box end, we shorten that linkage half as well, and then we convert it to cable. That should give us exactly what we need to, you know, the shifter should still be completely on point. The other thing is converting it to cable, we have a little bit of adjustment for a little bit of room for error. So yeah, works out better. If you're trying to shorten that down and still use the actual tube or the solid piece, I suppose you'd call it, the linkage, this thing here, that would be a problem because like Rex was saying before, with your tolerances, it would be a pain. But given that we're going to shorten this half and then convert the cable, we've got a little bit of adjustment. We should be able to make it work perfectly. Should be fine. We do conveniently have this entire box of just like old shifter parts because we've done a lot of these. So we've got heaps of cable brackets, gates and stuff like that. Rex is just in the car now, test fitting a few things, but it does look like we all have enough configuration of these brackets to make brackets work for a cable. We shouldn't even have to do really a lot of fabrication to get a cable to work. So that's what we're gonna have to do. That's gonna have to be the solution just because of the way that the shifter doesn't particularly work when you turn it around. But we're just looking, with that arm shortened up halfway, we should easily be able to get the shifter base to sit almost flat on the tunnel. So you can get it down plenty far enough as we need to make it look pretty nice, pretty factory at least, and be ergonomic and sort of be in a position that's comfortable and feels nice to drive. For when you're slamming gears on limiter in the poo troll. This is what Rex has figured out with his ratios, with his distances, where if he drills the shifter arm right there, we've actually already got this linkage for a...
Well, that's what I'd do is pick that distance for to suit a hole we already have.
So that just goes straight on the 6L shifter selector, the selector and on the shaft, and then Bob's your Arnie. Got a cable here. We're going to use this cable just for dummying and getting it to work, but we will order a brand new cable for him to use. So, but should be good. Should work well.
All right, no going back now.
Chopped.
It's been chopped.
Chopped. All right, so while Rex is doing the shifter in the inside there, I'm just starting to have a look at these fans and this new radiator. So I've got the radiator just dummied up, and I had it in my head that these fans were going to be quite a lot smaller than the radiator, but they're actually a really nice size. They're actually going to work really well. Got a bit of trimming on these edges to do to try and bring the fans all the way up to the actual radiator. These edges are getting in the way of a few of our hoses and stuff, so there'll be a bit of trimming around there. But this lip actually conveniently does sort of clip right up there. It sort of fits really well. You'd be able to use a few of these smaller screws just to get it to sit there and then make some stronger mounts off a few other places, but these fans should actually work really well. So it's a nice little win. Plenty of room for them. But yeah, it should work really well. We've got, notice as well, the transcooler is actually like a back-to-back dual cooler sort of setup. So we're pretty much planning on running the trans through the new radiator and then out through the external as well. Should be plenty of cooling for this 6L, try and keep it nice and cool, because as we all know, heat is what kills these autos. Number one killer for these autos is heat. So considering it's four-wheel drive, does a bit of towing, try and keep this thing as cool as possible. So I've just managed to squeeze those fans in between the outlets there, and look how well they sort of fit. So like just trim that much off this edge, the long edge down the sides of both of them, and then just trim a little bit out so that we can get at both our inlets and outlets. And these things literally should just straight in there, just dock right on there. Amazing. Amazing. So anyway, I'll get the air hacksaw out and start going ham. Woo, thank you very much.
Good. So it's gonna have to sit.
So this is what Rex has sorted out with the shifter. Made a little box to sit on top of the tunnel there.
Yeah.
That's how the shifter's gonna sit to level it up.
We'll just weld her all in, and that way it's sealed, it's solid. Everything's cool. I'm gonna try and make some
Very
brackets
nice
for the cable off that.
Good. So just working this front end out. So we've got our new condenser in, put some new O-rings on the fittings for him. So that's all well and sorted. This old AC fan, I'm gonna yeet that, that can go. So what we're gonna do, as you can see, they replace it with just an on-off compressor, which is just controlled then by the dash. So you know the ECU doesn't actually control any of the climate control or anything like that, like it used to in the VE. So they're a pretty simple aftermarket on-off compressor. What I'm gonna do is we'll off the trigger for the compressor, we'll have another relay, which will hijack one of the thermo fans, so that one of the thermo fans is acting as the AC fan, which means we don't need that one, which frees up this side. So they've got here, because I think I said it in one of the earlier videos, but the Jatco or the RE4 that was in this car, the Patrol here, had been rebuilt within the past year. The owner had it all rebuilt, and it still had warranty and that sort of thing. So obviously when they rebuilt it, they put a decent set of coolers and stuff on it to make sure they kept it cool because it was under warranty and everything else. And you probably saw when I pulled that off, when they mounted it, they literally just punched some bolts. They just punched these long bolts straight through the old condenser and just bolted it in, which is pretty wild. But anyway, whatever. That's one of the reasons we gone to the new condenser, as well as just a matter of having new, fresh parts everywhere, which is nice. So anyway, that's all the owner's doing. But the point I'm getting at is we've got two good PWR coolers here, which are very good trans coolers, gonna do a very good job at what we wanna do. And without that fan, we've now freed up the entire front grille area. So my plan is to, instead of mounting these on top of each other like they were mounted, I'm gonna split them. We're gonna have one each side. That way we are effectively doubling the surface area, which makes the cooling more effective. And you know, we've got the room, so we may as well. I'm not gonna put anything else there. So we're gonna keep the factory power steering cooler setup. That's what I'm gonna do with the front end. So I'm going to try and figure out how I'm gonna mount these coolers without punching bolt holes through the condenser. And yeah, we'll go from there. So fast forward most of the afternoon, I finally got this bracket sort of sorted out. I'll show you a closer look when I flip it over. I'm just painting it up now. But everything's nut certed, so everything just bolts on, and the two coolers bolt to that on their side, back to back. So like to mount them on their side, that way it pushes air up and out, rather than mount them upside down where you can potentially get an air pocket, is the idea there. So just incredibly time consuming doing stuff like that. Just so time consuming making up bracketry and things like that. So like that's not really particularly part of the conversion, but something that we needed to do. That, you know, that's the best, probably 4 hours of my day just in getting that right. So anyway, it mounts off these two threaded holes already in the rad support, and I've got to drill a nut-cert to the bottom of this bottom rad support as well, so that everything's just nut-certed, bolts up. Perfect. So it bolts those 4 places. It also bolts to the upright, which is the support for the bonnet latch, which I actually have to paint. Thank you for reminding myself. So I'll paint that up as well because I've drilled it. So yeah, strong as, they're going to be awesome. They're mounted off the condenser, they're not going to touch it. So Grill fits over the top, absolutely mint. It's going to be really nice. Through each one of those coolers, each have full surface area, full frontage. It's going to be the best this thing is ever going to be cooled, this transmission. So should never have a problem due to heat. So apart, it's been a pretty good day really, getting so much of the front end of the car sorted. Between having this mount sorted so that those trans coolers are mounted properly, the new condensers in with new O-rings and stuff. We've sorted out the fans and they actually fit really well. I'm super happy with them. I've got to finish them off, obviously. I was busy doing that, but I've got to just finish off a few mounts. That, and I'm going to actually mount foam in the bottom between the fan and the radiator. So foam along there to make sure they actually draw through the radiator there. So that they're mounted nice and tight, as well as some pinch weld on the sides just to protect the tanks. But apart from that, super stoked with the fans. So that's, yeah, like I said, that's most of the front end of the car sorted out, which is a pretty awesome leap forward for the day. Got Rex's shifter is nearly sorted and it's looking awesome. That's looking absolutely fantastic, that is. It's looking great.
Flipping monstrosity.
Yeah, monstrosity, but just look at it. Look how good it looks like it's gonna work.
Oh, it'll work fine. It just looks disgusting.
Anyway guys, I didn't film a lot of making this brackets and stuff up, mostly because my SD card on this GoPro is about to be full. So I'll take it home with me tonight and sort it out. But I'm not gonna fit much else on it today. So that's pretty much gonna be an episode. Sorry, it's a bit of a weird place to call an episode when we're halfway through a heap of stuff, but I guess it just makes you more excited to watch the next one. So, but anyway, we're making pretty good progress. I mean, today is the end, besides just actually doing the cam upgrade and getting the engine ready and all that sort of thing, we're at the end of day 4 of this conversion between the two of us. So a day to pull the old motor and gearbox out and wash everything. And then today's the end of Wednesday and we started on Monday. So it's the end of day 4, and for 2 of those days it was only Rex. I didn't do anything. So I was working on another engine. So it's pretty good. Pretty good progress. I'm happy with the progress.
Yeah, this is just fucking outrageously over-engineered.
Yeah?
Well, even just that single bracket
Yep.
is just fine.
Strong as.
But I've got,
A backstay.
well, I got 2.
2 backstays.
Well,
Oh, yeah, a backstay and a side stay.
so that it's stable in all directions. It can't go anywhere. At least it won't move, because it is important. Because if it does get flexed in it, it can try and hold the box between gears and
Yeah, then you'll
kill
burn
it.
clutches.
Kill it.
It's super important that you have clear selection and good, I suppose, tolerance. Because yeah, like we were just saying, if you get it stuck between gears in like a false neutral sort of thing, you end up on the clutches in the box, which burns them out, which is not good. So that's why it's when you're doing stuff like shortening arms like this and converting to cable, that's why it's so important to do your calculations and make sure you get your ratios correct so that it actually selects properly. But anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you for watching. As always, hope you're enjoying the build. Don't forget to smash like, really helps us out. Smash subscribe if you're new here, if you haven't already. Come on guys, we do some pretty cool stuff. Let's go. And head to the shop and buy some stuff if you wish. I would appreciate that as well. But anyway, most of all, thanks for watching. And we'll see you on the next one, where we'll find out if our shifter is going to work, which it will. And we'll try and get the rest of this front end back into the car. And we'll finally move that sway bar disconnect, sort some stuff out like that tomorrow. So anyway, thanks for watching guys. Peace out, see you, bye.